Hello friends, welcome to episode 6 of Mr. Robot in Review, the show I like to call Hello Friends. If you've joined me the first 5 episodes, I thank you very much for all the love and support. If this is your first time, go ahead and watch episode 1, and we're just going to get right into it. For those of you who don't know, this is my Mr. Robot in Review show. I'm going to go through every episode of Mr. Robot, probably my favorite show of all time, and just recap it. And there's going to be some awards given out at the end, the overall score, who I thought was the best. If you've seen the first 5 episodes, you'll know what's going on. But this is episode 6. The title of this episode I like to call Zero Sum. So the plot is an illusion. So episode 6, we start, and this opens to an art painting, or a painting that looks like my 3-year-old nephew drew it, because honestly it just looks like someone took some crayons and just scribbled all over it. But this is art, apparently. And we get Elliot talking to the audience, where he says he feels the fight or flight sensation, but he's not sure if he should just pick one. He says, I, Elliot Alderson, am flight. I am fear. I am anxiety, terror, panic. And then we get the Mr. Robot title card. So we cut to Elliot and Shayla in a diner, and the last episode we ended with Shayla being kidnapped by Vera. We didn't know what was going on. Is she safe? Is she dead? What is sort of happening here? And now we suddenly get Elliot and Shayla in a diner. We're wondering, is this a flashback? What's going on here? And so Elliot and Shayla are there, and then we have a kind of a wide cut, and then that disgusting art picture, the crayon drawing, is in the background there. So nice little bit there. And Shayla says, this doesn't even feel real. I'm not hungry. Elliot's talking to her, and he's like, I'm going to get you out of this. And then we have a side cut here to Vera's henchmen, DJ and Isaac. And he says, all right, time to go. And he grabs Shayla violently and like drags her away. And none of the diner residents react to this at all. And so you're wondering, is this like an illusion? Is this a dream sequence? What's going on here? Why is no one reacting to this girl being like kidnapped in front of, in a public area, basically? So we get the other bodyguard, tells Elliot to come with him. And he leads Elliot to a closet or like a storage area. And this is where there's like a white corded phone, like an old dial phone with the spin numbers that you dial. Anyone who's my age, I'm 28 or younger, should know what that is. But those of you new kids, there used to be phones where you spin the dial, and there were cords attached to phones, so you can only go to a certain area. Usually that phone was in the kitchen, but that's for another time. But that was a nice little bit here with Sam putting kind of an older phone in there. But the phone is already off the hook, so it's clear that there's someone on the line waiting, and Elliot's brought to this phone where he's going to pick up the phone. So what's really cool about this scene, there's really cool, like dark, tense, almost like a tectonic music building, a suspense building, as Elliot walks into the room here. He picks up the phone slowly. There's a really great shot. And it's Vera on the other line, and he's calling from a cell phone in his jail bunk. And he says, you know, Elliot, the origin, you know what your name means? He goes, the origin of your name, brave and true. And then he says, you know, my name's pretty similar. It means brave traveler, adventurer. And this is just another dip into Vera's kind of insanity, where he's very spiritual and very into the meaning of words or the meaning of names and things like that, or outer connections. He'll talk about the universe later on, and that's going to be his character throughout the show, really, but adds a little bit of another dimension to the show. So Elliot starts demanding, where's Shayla? Where did you take her? What's going on? Where can I find her? And Vera just kind of ignores him, and Vera tells him, you know, when he found out that Elliot was the one who turned him in, he was depressed. And then Vera reveals that, you know, he's obsessed with power. He's like, I need that shit. And then he's like, I need you to hack me out of prison. I need you to get me out of prison. And he's like, I need it to go down tonight. And Elliot's like, prisons are very hard to hack into. The soonest I could do is a few weeks from now. But he's like, it's no easy task. And Vera says, no, it has to be tonight. He says, I got crosshairs at my heart. If I don't make it out, I'll be dead. And he goes, that ain't meant to be just yet. And another kind of hint at a cosmic connection or an outside connection that Vera is alluring to here. But yeah, he's saying, I got crosshairs at my heart, saying that someone's out to kill him. We're assuming this is someone in jail at this point. But it's interesting that he says that ain't meant to be just yet. Like almost like he can see the future, like he knows something that we don't. And Elliot begs Vera, he says, please, you're asking the impossible. He's like, there's no way I can do this tonight, dude. And Vera just laughs and, he says, I'm going to hug you, bro. He's like, I'm going to hug you tonight when I see you. And he goes, you, me, and Shayla are going to be there. And then he just goes, I love you, bro. And what a psycho move that is. Because obviously, like, he's kind of threatening him. He knows that he's the one who turned him in. Elliot's wondering if he's out to kill him. And he tells him he loves him. And Vera just speaks to Elliot VR's character. He's just kind of like off the rails crazy. So the call ends and we get Elliot getting dropped back off at his apartment. And he's accompanied by 2 henchmen, DJ and Isaac, from the diner. And then Elliot's talking to us. He says, hacking a person isn't all that hard to do, but almost impossible to do without... hacking a prison isn't all that hard to do, but almost impossible to do without any research. And he states, one of the goons, Isaac, who's Isaac Vera's brother, he said, something about Isaac bugs him. And he says, you know what I like to do when that happens. And then we get a cut to Elliot as he's starting to hack Isaac's phone. Then we get a cut to Angela in the Allsafe office. It's 6:48 a.m., according to the phone shown here. And she's looking at an article about Terry Colby, possibly implicating himself in the hack there, or in the attack. And then she's printing out articles and highlighting them. There's a good montage of her cutting out the different articles from different publishers. And Angela starts calling all these lawyers, and she's trying to reach out to them about Terry Colby. And then we get a cut to Darlene. And Darlene's outside of the police precinct, and she's dropping a bunch of what looks like USB ports on the ground. We later find out that this is e-money or like spam, basically USB chips that you can plug into your computer for like gift cards and e-money and things like that. So then we get Angela. She's meeting with a lawyer after she calls a bunch of lawyers, and it's a woman here, and she says that she's trying to present her case, and she says, the lawyer says, you want to take internet gossip to federal court and throw it at the strongest conglomerate in the history of civilization. And I was like, ouch. That's, when you put it that way, well, yeah, it looks a little tough. So after a brief explanation the lawyer gives, she said she's got a better chance of defending this guy in the suit. She opens the door and shows Angela this guy waiting in the lobby, who was twice charged with sexual assault and bashed his girlfriend's skull in for cheating at Halo. And she's like, I got a better chance of defending that guy than what you just brought me here. So Angela's about to walk out, and she says, of all the lawyers I called, you're the only one that called back. She's like, you called back. And then we cut back to the police precinct, and one of the cops picking up the E-Corp USB drive, and he's like, ooh, and he plugs it in. And it turns out it's a $100 eTunes, which is a ripoff of iTunes, gift card, which I thought was funny. And so this cop thinks he's got it good. He thinks he just found a $100 e-card, like just laying on the ground, like someone dropped it, even though there's hundreds of these things or dozens of these things scattered on the ground. So there's a cut here where he just needs to complete a very obvious spam survey. Just take a few minutes to complete this survey. Anyone who's ever seen this, very clear spam, like never click on those. It's just malware. And so there's an antivirus system that ends up blocking the malware, and the cop freaks out. He's like, oh shit, and he immediately like unplugs his computer. Well, it turns out that was a USB chip that Darlene designed so that Elliot could try and get into the police precinct to get rid of the cameras for the prison. And we cut back to Elliot at the apartment. His dog is barking. But he's like, shit, it booted. Someone took the USB chip out. So they were clearly working on that to try and get into the cameras and Didn't work. So Elliot's like, our plan is screwed. So Elliot's dog's barking and he says, I got to take him out for a walk. Isaac kind of confronts him and he's like, no, you don't have to take that dog out for a walk. He's like, dude, he's going to piss all over the floor. And then he's like, it's cool, man. He's like, go ahead and take your dog for a walk. He's like, just don't try anything. So we get Elliot taking his dog out, throws on the hoodie, walks down outside, walks around the corner, and then lo and behold, Darlene is around the corner at a dumpster. And he says, what did you do? Just grab some random code and write that yourself? And she says, dude, I had an hour. Like, she's like, what did you want me to do? You gave me a last minute notice and I put together the best I could. And Elliot says, you fucked me. He says, now they're on to us. Like, that didn't work. Now they know that there's a hack coming or, they're not in good shape there. So Darlene says, she's going to show these guys what she's made of. And Elliot's like, you don't understand. These guys are, like, you don't know who you're dealing with here. And then one of the henchmen, BJ, comes down to kind of check on Elliot, make sure he's not running away. And he goes, yeah, this is what's up. And he flashes his gun. And he's like, let's go. And Elliot, Darlene follow him. So then we get cut back to Angela with the lawyer. And the lawyer states, they would need someone on the inside to flip. That's the only way really to take down E-Corp. We can't do this just by the information you presented with me. Then we cut to Scott Knowles in the boardroom, the next CTO for E-Corp, and he's conducting some interviews. And then suddenly Tyrell Wellach comes in and he's like, I didn't know you were up next. I thought I had, Bob or whatever his name was for the next interview. And he's like, you know what? Tyrell goes, why don't we just blow the rest of the interviews off and go play some golf? And Scott kind of smiles at him. And he goes, look, I know you thought you were a shoo-in for CTO and you're probably pissed. And he's like, Scott says, you probably wish I had fallen under the subway tracks so that he would die, obviously, and Tyrell would take over. And Tyrell goes, Tyrell's kind of caught, obviously, red-handed here. Scott's onto him, and he wasn't expecting that. So Tyrell says, no, you must be mistaken. He goes, thank you for a lovely evening the other day. And he starts to kind of walk away. And this is when Scott kind of stands up, and he's like, did you enjoy the view? And Tyrell's like, I'm sorry. And then he's like, oh, you didn't think my wife would tell me about, the fact that you barged in on her in the bathroom? And then there's this really great scene where Scott and Tyrell stand up. And there's this awesome bit where Scott is saying, I can get my brother down from Miami if you want to watch people piss, if that really gets you off. He's like, maybe you can squeeze one out if you like watching people pee. He's like, I'll take my dick out right here. And Tyrell's like, oh, wasn't expecting confrontation. Scott is kind of like, get off my back here. Scott doesn't trust him at all. But it's interesting to see Tyrell here because he's trying to play like polite, like, oh, no, I'm sorry, you're mistaken. But he's very clearly caught here. So Tyrell doing his best to kind of shake it off. But Scott is all over his scent there. And so they talk a little bit here, and I put my notes here that Scott goes in for the kill because at the beginning of the conversation he talks about his watch, and he says, oh, it's nothing, like some Arabian prince or something gave it to me and it's worth a whole bunch of money, but he doesn't even realize that because he doesn't really care about it. And Tyrell's walking away, and he takes off his watch. He goes, you know what? I feel bad, and he offers his watch to him. And he says, you're still living in that 2-bedroom, right? And he's like, this would pay off the rest of your mortgage. He's like, go ahead, take it. I feel bad. And I was like, damn. Scott is like basically showing him that wealth is not an issue. And not only does he have the position that Tyrell wants, but he doesn't give a shit. And he's just like, I do take this very expensive watch that most people would try and steal or would love to have. And that's when Tyrell loses a smirk and he goes, there. That's the look I was looking for. And it's Tyrell when he's pissed off, and Tyrell just kind of storms out. And I was like, Scott 1, Tyrell 0. Because he just owned him in that sequence there. So we cut back to Elliot's apartment, where Elliot says he keeps thinking he's trying to get in or hack in terms of brute force, but it won't work. And then that's when Angela shows up, and she's ringing the buzzer a million times, and she's like, Elliot, let me in, ring the buzzer. And these guys are like, dude, get rid of this girl. Like, now's not the time, because obviously Elliot's kind of being held up right now. So Elliot says, okay, I'll go talk to her. And then DJ says, yeah, it's either DJ or Isaac, I'm not sure. Sorry, I forgot. But he says, Darlene stays with us, but go downstairs and get rid of Angela. So then we get an awesome cut to like one of my favorite scenes of Mr. Robot in the whole series. And I forgot about this part, but there's going to be multiple shots I enter here because there's just so the scene is so good where we cut to an enraged Tyrell at home with Joanna Wellick in the foreground, just calmly eating like a corn dog. And Tyrell breaks some shit. Then he breaks some more shit. Then he breaks a little bit more shit. And while this whole sequence is happening, it's so great because he's smashing shit and his hair is out of control, similar to when he was beating up the homeless bum a couple episodes ago. And it's just Tyrell out of control, and it's just such a great scene where he's blurry in the background and Joanna is just very calmly eating like this corn dog. And she says, do you understand why you're upset? Because I'm right. And he's like, I put us and our family in danger. He's like, I need to be patient. And she's kind of the brains behind the operation. She's the rational thinker there. And Tyrell acts more on instinct, and he kind of thought he had his whole plan set up here. Now it's all gone to shit, and Scott is basically like, you'll never have this job, and get off my back. So Tyrell has this line where he says, I had her. He goes, she opened her legs for me, and Joanna goes, not far enough apparently. And I was like, damn, dude, when your wife is telling you that, it's like, yeah, he tried to play the sex card and it just didn't work and it blew up in his face. Joanna says, there was something good about that move from her. She goes, now we know what she wants, to be wanted. Then we get a cut to Angela and Elliot outside Elliot's apartment, where Angela says, we always knew E-Corp was wrong, but now we have proof. She goes, I think I can change the world. And this is a big moment, but Elliot's, got other things going on right now. He's like, it's not a good time. And then he says, I'm just going to tell Angela what she wants to hear. And he's like, trust yourself. And she just smiles and leaves. So Elliot knows exactly what to say to her to get her to leave. So then he goes back up to the apartment, and while he's walking up the stairs, hello, Mr. Robot. We get Mr. Robot for the first time in this episode. He's sitting on the stairs, and he says, you don't have time to pull this off. He goes, just call the cops and leave it to them. Elliot says, no, there's no way I can do that. They're going to kill Shayla. And Mr. Robot says, she was dead the moment she started working with that maniac. And this is where I kind of thought of the episode title again, Zero Sum, where he's saying, like, no matter what happens, they're zero sum. There's no good result, no end result to this. This will be a theme. Mr. Robot says, even if you somehow pull this off, it's in Vera's best interest to kill you, Shayla, and Darlene anyway. The best thing you can do for Shayla is allow her to become a memory. And it's like, damn, that's cold. And Mr. Robot slowly walks up to Elliot on the stairs when Elliot's trying to walk past him. And he says, big line here, he says, true courage is about being honest with yourself, especially when it's difficult. We will go back to this line because it is more important than just this scene. It is a big context line there. Again, true courage is about being honest with yourself, especially when it's difficult. And he looks him right in the eyes here. And fans who are rewatching the show, we're going to pick up on that immediately. And just if you're first time watching, that's something to keep note of or keep track of for future reference. So Elliot talking to us brings up fight or flight again. And this is when he kind of figures it out. He goes back to his apartment determined. And he goes, I know how to break Vera out. And he goes, we need to get to the prison immediately. So there's a really cool bit here when he goes back up while he was downstairs talking to Angela, where DJ and Isaac found Elliot's digital cemetery with all his burned CDs, or the CDs that he wrote on there. And they're kind of looking through it, and he's like, man, you don't have no Drake in here? He's like, what is this? You don't have Drake? And he's like, oh, you shouldn't have found that. And he just immediately like closes it and throws it on the ground. And then we get an awesome shot of Elliot meeting with Vera. And Elliot says, we need more time. He goes, there's no way I can do this right now. And Vera says, no, it's got to be tonight. And he, again, reiterating that, like, I'm going to die if you don't do this tonight. And this is when Elliot reveals to us and also to Vera, he goes, it's in your best interest to keep talking to me. Right now, my phone is running a scan. He says it's an undetectable signal sniffer at the security desk that will locate any kind of wireless signal in sight. So he's trying to hack it that way. And it's a cool shot to Elliot's phone at the security desk, which looks like the phone is off, but it's running a scan there. And he goes, by the time I leave this building, I'll own its network. And Vera says, you're stupid. If you break me out tonight, they're going to know it's you if you're visiting me today. Elliot goes, nah, bro, we opening every cell. And that way they can't trace it back to you or me. And Vera's like, all right. And he's like, woo! And he stands up and he gets all excited. And he says, I told you the universe got big plans for us, brah. And Elliot goes, sit back down. And he looks at him like a dog that's in trouble. And this was a power move from Elliot. And that's when Elliot reveals that he hacked Isaac's phone, his brother Isaac, his phone. And he has everything. Crew shipments. I took it all. He goes, I own your whole world. And then Vera's smile starts to slowly fade. And Elliot says, I need your word that when this goes down, Shayla and I go free. I even see one of your guys following me and I leak everything. And that's when Elliot says that he coded the link to auto send every 24 hours unless Elliot manually disables it. He goes, if anything happens to me or Shayla, your money gets deleted. Big dick energy right there. And so the tables have flipped, the tides have turned, and Elliot's now in control. Vera's kind of the one listening to orders, and it's clear how Elliot's kind of taken over this whole thing. For today's episode, we got some chocolate stout. Not my favorite, but it's the last of my mini kegs, so. Hopsy, always providing interesting stuff. Chocolate stout, though, not my favorite. Don't know if I'll be getting that one again. So, we cut to Angela visiting Terry Colby's home. And this is kind of a weird scene because she opens the door here and he's like, what are you, a reporter? And she's like, you don't remember me? And he's like, no. And then he just kind of looks at her and they're silent. And then there's a shot to his ankle where he's on house arrest. And she just kind of says nothing. And he's like, leave my home. He's like, leave me alone. And that's the whole scene. So kind of a weird bit there. So Elliot's walking out of prison and he says, the only signal I found was a WPA2 signal, which is nearly unhackable. And he's like, shit, now, this is his second plan that's kind of failed today and he's running out of time. And then we get a really cool shot of car 365 pulling up. And this car pulls up and it's one of the cop cars and Elliot has got his Bluetooth search on and he realizes he doesn't need to hack the cameras because he's got dedicated 4G for the mobile feed on the police camera cars. And that's pretty cool. I didn't know that was a thing that he could do, but that's kind of like a last resort and he's like a hallelujah moment. So Elliot comes back to the car and he says, I can pull this off. And he's like, I know how to do it. And Isaac, Vera kind of freaks out. And again, this is right after Elliot told Vera that he hacked Isaac's phone. And so we're assuming that Vera, again, made a phone call or found a way to contact Isaac in between that time and tell him, like, yo, dude, he hacked everything. And so Elliot freaks out. He says, yo, Elliot, get in the car. And everyone starts getting in the car. And he's like, no, just Elliot. And they're like, dude, we don't have time to do this. He's like, get in the car. And he freaks out. And then they drive down the street. And then Elliot and Isaac get to sort of like a dock area or a secluded area with a bunch of like storage containers there. And there's a really cool side shot or a wide shot of Elliot and Isaac walking. And Isaac ends up holding a gun to the back of his head. And Elliot says, I guess a bullet to the back of the head is peaceful. And Isaac says, just wasn't your day today, bro. Just wasn't your day today. And then we get a big plot twist. And Elliot tells Isaac out loud, he goes, you don't want me to succeed. That's why you don't care about the operation. You're trying to kill your brother. And he says, Vera's found the right crew in prison. He's protected now. He says the only way it works in your favor, Isaac's favor, is for you to kill Vera first. And you can't do that while Vera is locked up. And Isaac is kind of sitting there like, shit, he figured out my whole plan. And Elliot's kind of like, this is why you've been bothering me like this. I figured it out. And the big reveal here is that the reason Vera is in prison is because of Isaac, which we talked about briefly in a couple episodes ago when the attorney was telling them that, all your social media transactions gave you away, and it was Isaac's idea to put those up there. So Elliot says, as he's kind of begging for his life here, or he's kind of bartering, he says, let me free Vera and you can do what you want with your brother then. It's the only outcome. You may end up alive. It's your best move. And Isaac says, what makes you think I won't kill you afterwards? And Elliot goes, I don't. I'm just playing my best move. And it's like a cold-blooded line there. So Darlene, in the next part of the phase, as a distraction, she acts as a prostitute as she kind of just lowers her coat and walks over to the cop car there to distract the cop. And she's like, hey, I've got some questions for you. And then Elliot starts to hack the cop car, or connected the Bluetooth there without the cop noticing. And Elliot says he's found the exploit, which is a throwback to last episode, all about exploits. And then Elliot says, he hacked, it's on his laptop, he found the hack, and then it's all good. The cop is like, oh, I got to get back to the station and my computer's on the fritz. I'm like, I got to go. But Elliot's already done the damage at this point. So he says, we need to drive. He goes, Darlene is no longer part of the plan. He says, I'm one keystroke away from executing this plan and one keystroke away from erasing it. And he goes, I made my move. And he's got a confident, like balls in your court now. And he looks back at Isaac, and that was a throwback to the last scene, or a flashback to the last scene where he knows what Isaac is up to. And he goes, now you make yours. And Elliot's talking to us now. He says, if I mistyped one key, one mistake, and the cell doors won't open. And he goes, and we both know what that means. He goes, did I make a mistake? No, I don't make mistakes. And I was like, damn, like cold-blooded Elliot. Like, it's a baller, it's a power move, it's a baller move. And so then we cut later in the night towards the end of the episode here. It's now 9:48 p.m. according to the phone again, where Elliot, DJ, and Isaac are waiting outside. So apparently Darlene did get to go, or she's doing whatever now. And Elliot says, for all his insane, inhumane ideas, he does understand the world, talking about Vera. And he goes, the wild savagery of the world. Isaac cocks his gun, and DJ asks him, yo, what do you need your piece for, man? And he says, Boy Wonder here has been opening all the cells. And he goes, some fool tries to rush us, I want to be ready. Obviously, he's not just preparing for a random inmate. He's loading his gun so he can shoot Vera, kill Vera when he gets out. Which DJ, at this point, doesn't know that. Just us, the audience, and Elliot knows. So there's a really, really cool, amazing shot of the power going out. And I'm going to put this in the shots here just to kind of compare and contrast. There's the lights on, and then it cuts to black. It's a blackout, and it's a very dark scene. Really, really cool. Really sets the tone. A really, really cool tracking shot there. And then Elliot says, they're kind of wondering, like, what's going on? Elliot says, power surge caused by all cell doors opening at the same time. Network will show all doors locked and closed. Alarms are silent for 2 minutes. So they got a 2-minute window here for all the inmates to get out. And Vera walks over. You get this really cool shot of all these prisoners escaping, and it's kind of quiet, and everyone's kind of running through and trying to get through the fence there. It's a really, really eerie scene. And Vera walks over, and he's got his arms up, and he's hyped. And then he just calmly walks over and he says, man, and then he goes, DJ, shoot the cocksucker. And that's when DJ pulls his gun up and he shoots Isaac in the back of the head. And I was like, whoa, like I forgot about that part. So Vera obviously knew that Isaac was out to get him. Vera took the one up, and he told DJ ahead of time, obviously, to shoot Isaac once he gets out. And he goes, I know, Vera, my own brother. That's what the universe asked of me, to be my brother's keeper. And that's when he grabs Elliot by the head or by the neck. And this is a creepy scene, a really cool scene, and Elliot's kind of wondering, like, what the hell's going on. And Vera talks to him about the bravery Elliot showed to help free Vera. And he goes, now I want you to look at Isaac. Dead proof that my operation is over. And he kind of forces his head down. And he's looking at there's just a shot of his head bleeding out, or his dead body, and the blood pooling out of his head there. And he goes, crash and burn it to the ground. It doesn't matter. I'm gone. And Vera brings up his spirit being in like all heavens and all existences, which is another take there. And then we get a car pull up, like a getaway car. And Elliot and Vera starts to walk away. Elliot says, Shayla, where is she? Where's Shayla? And then there's a cut here. And a really, really somber moment where Vera says, keys. Gets the keys and he throws the keys over to Elliot. And he goes, I told you to get her back, bro. And he goes, you just didn't realize? She was with you the whole time. And that's when you go, no way, dude. Like, and of course, Elliot's been in this car all day. She's obviously not in the front or the back seat. There's only one other place she's in, and that's the trunk. And so obviously Elliot hasn't been hearing like any screams for help or anything in the trunk, and you're just fearing the worst. And Vera pulls away, and there's an amazing shot where it's just Elliot in the car and kind of the background noise and the chaos is going up there. And Elliot just kind of stands there for a moment, and he kind of realizes what he meant by that and the implication, and he knows that there's a good chance that Shayla is dead in this trunk. And he kind of takes a minute, and he finally turns, he opens the trunk, and the music is building and building and building at this point. This is an amazing sequence. There's a shot of Elliot like right in front of the prison, and some inmates are still escaping, and the sirens are starting to go off now, and the cop cars are coming, and there's dogs barking, and it's clear Elliot's running out of time. And he opens the trunk, and there's like a pan around, and you don't really know what's going on there, but you don't hear obviously Shayla say anything. Elliot does a really great job by Rami here. He doesn't react, but you can tell he's devastated. And then we finally cut to Shayla, who's very clearly got a slit throat. So Elliot knew right away when opening the trunk there that Shayla has been dead for probably hours at this point, in the trunk the whole time with them, which is just so sad. And the rage is just building him, and you can tell he just wants to scream. The score is really great here because the score is loud and booming, and the music is booming, and the sirens are closing in, and you know Elliot's got to get out of there. And now obviously there's some inmates still escaping, but the alarms are about to come back up. Obviously there's been a huge escape now, and now you got Elliot there with a dead girl in the trunk. Obviously he's got to get out of there. He's going to be arrested or in trouble, or not good news. And Elliot, it looks like he wants to scream, and the veins are building his neck, and he's so angry and he's so hurt. He just throws the hood on, and it looks like he's about to burst into tears, and he just runs out of the frame. End credits, and it's like, oof. I mean, this scene I remembered, this whole sequence I remembered. I didn't know it was only like the last 2 minutes of the episode. It's like one of those moments in Mr. Robot where you don't forget. And so as soon as I remembered that this was the episode at the beginning, I was really excited for this part, and it lives up. It's amazing every time. But yeah, that's episode 6. So for a score for this one, I give it a 9.3. Really strong episode here. I wanted to put this one a little bit higher, but The part I remember about this episode most is the ending sequence, the amazing ending sequence. I thought the B plot was a little weak with Angela, and so I was mostly focused on the fact that Elliot's trying to break out Vera, and he's running out of time, and he's got to find out which way to go, and Vera's asking this seemingly impossible task. I thought the build-up was a little bit better. I thought there were more obstacles. It really is kind of straightforward storyline that Elliot follows through in this one, so that's why I didn't give this one higher. I mean, a 9.3 is nothing to scoff at. One of the stronger episodes this season. But I thought it was closer to a 10, but it really is just that lasting scene that I remember, and I thought more of the episode was kind of similar to that, but still a very, very good episode. We get the race against the clock, the plot twist with Isaac wanting to kill his brother, and then ultimately another plot twist where he ends up dead. The huge Shayla reveal at the end, Mr. Robot and Stairway was a fun bit, and then Angela's subplot was kind of weak, but still important that we're still talking about Terry Colby and a bigger thing on the horizon there. So, yep, 9.3 is what I'm going to go with. So the White Rose, first time winner this season. I'm going to give it to Fernando Vera, played by Elliot VR. Just every scene he's in just absolutely steals the show here and just encapsulates. He plays a true villain, and you never know what he's going to do. He's clearly unhinged. And again, I mentioned I want to give this to him, his first episode. I think it was episode 3 maybe, or maybe episode 2, where he showed up in Shayla's apartment. But I just didn't think he had enough screen time. This one, I think, overdue Fernando Vera, first White Rose Award winner of this season, end of the series. Just this episode is about Vera and how he, even in prison, can manipulate and be diabolical and change things around him. And he just needs some help from Elliot, but now he's out and now he's loose. So we'll see. But I thought Elliot VR was just outstanding, as always, as Fernando Vera in this one. So I'm going to give him the White Rose Award. And that's it. Again, that's 6 episodes in. Pretty hard to believe we have 40 more to go, but I'm super excited. That's 40 more weeks I get to do this, and I've had a blast doing every time. Thank you again for everyone who's watched so far, and until next time, goodbye, friend.